Hi, this is Brent from Production Expert. In this second video, we're going to be taking a look at Arturia pigments. In the first video, we looked at Arturia Analog Lab 4, and I would recommend that you go back and have a look and listen to the track that I'm breaking down this video if you want to have a little bit more context as to what I'm working with, because in this video, we're going to be looking at 3 different instances of pigments. So, I've got a couple of different instances loaded up here, and each one is something different to offer. So this first one is just a preset that comes with pigments. The second one is my own custom sound design, and the third one is the same thing again, a different sample though, and we're going to look into the granular and sample-based engine. So if we just load pigments up here, one thing to point out is Pigments is not trying to recreate any actual virtual analog synthesizer within this environment. It's creating its own unique instrument that Arturia have worked on for a very long time. And it is a really flexible synth that you can probably do just about every single part of your sound design process with. It comes with a lot of presets, as you can see, and it comes with a lot of different integrated hardware and software controls within here. So for example, you could probably map all of these controls to one of the Arturia keyboard controllers. And not only that, but it's just like Analog Labs in the way that it comes with its own effects section, and it has a built-in sequencer and arpeggiator. So without going into too much detail about the engine, because you can learn about that in some other videos, we're going to break down this track a bit further. This first preset here is exactly that. It's a preset lo-fi piano. So if you want to load this up, if you have pigments yourself, it sounds great. It's really simple. I've got a bit of sidechain compression going on in PreSonus, my DAW here, so you'll hear a little bit of that happening, and I'll just play this here. So Arturia have really gone into great depth with making some great presets here. So as you could see, there's a little bit of mod matrix action going here. You could see it was triggering the filter cut off here. And another thing that happened with an update in Pigments recently was a lot of introduction of new filters. So if you have a look at the filters here, there is a lot of iconic filters that they've incorporated here, which will give you a lot of different sounds, and it's a great way to shape and maybe change the presets to your own personal liking. And I think we also had some of the effects going here. So similar to Analog Labs, but again, we've got a little bit more control. I have some chorus, reverb, and compression going on FX bus A here. And then on FX bus B, we have nothing. And finally on the Send bus, I've got reverb as well on a full wet blend. And then what I do is I can route the buses on the right here. And as you can see, I've got bus A blended in. Bus B is blended in, but there's actually yes, there is a reverb instance on there, and the return is blended all the way up to unity gain there. So it's a pretty basic preset, but what I really want to look at is the sound design process that you can start to get really in depth with pigments. So here's my own custom preset, Rusty Farmgate. This is a recording that I took myself just using an iPhone. It wasn't even using a proper field recorder, and I've dropped my own sample into the sample-based engine that was in addition to Pigments about 6 to 12 months ago. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. And I have incorporated the granular engine in this. And if we just deactivate the wavetable that I've got in the background here, we'll be able to get a little bit of an idea as to how this sample sounds. So quite hard to believe that that is a farm gate. There's some really advanced sound design processes that you can go into with granular. It needs its entire series on its own, but just to give you a little taste, I have got it playing with an arpeggiator here. So that was what you're hearing. I've got my own effects routing set up here, and within the synth I'm using the sample-based engine, and you can also load different samples in, and you can go between them on the same preset using a round robin approach, but I'm just using one sample. I've got it using a granular synth engine here because you can see the way it's moving. So I'm just changing the time there at which it starts, and that's going to alter the overall size of the sample. And then what I want to do is I want to blend it in with another engine. So I could have a wavetable, a sample, or an analog engine. So analog is the more traditional sort of either subtractive or FM synthesis, and wavetable is where you can sort of morph your own wave type. So as you can see here, I've got this wave blended in with my sample. and it just thickens up the sound that little bit. And I've got a multi-mode filler on, so that's that entire preset there. And something to point out as well with presets is if you really like the sound of something but you're not entirely sure, Pigments can sort of teach you while you are actually producing your own music. If you hover over this tips icon here, it'll tell you about the sound designer down the bottom, and it'll tell you the style, and it'll tell you comments on how it was developed, so you can try and create your own sounds and learn a little bit while you're actually using these samples. So the final instance here in Pigments is another granular sample, and this one is kitchen bowl. So it just shows you you really don't have to go far. I've literally just took a recording again with the iPhone here, and this is what I got. And again, I've blended it with another wavetable, but a slightly different shape this time. And if I take away my sample, so the kitchen bowl, because it has quite a metallic and hard sound, it's helping to give a little bit more of a plucky sound and a bit more attack to this preset, as opposed to if it was just the wavetable. So you can really start to create your own sounds here, find your sound, and use these on tracks and try and discover your own sound design process and experiment and just be fun and create your own sounds, which is what this is all about. And I think Pigments does a great job of delivering on that front, because you're figuring out how you create your own sounds. And I think the best part about this synth that not a great deal of other synths have is the incorporation of the samples and the granular synth. I would go as far as saying that Pigments is the best rival to Omnisphere, and at a much more affordable price point. Now, I do love Omnisphere, but I think that Pigments is definitely more affordable, and it's a better way of learning because you have a really good visual representation of everything that's going on with the envelopes down here. And the same goes for your LFOs. You can set up your own macros. I think that, to summarize, Pigments is a really good tool for venturing into sound design, but also learning and understanding what's happening while you are creating and manipulating presets, your own sounds, and importing your own samples. So I hope you got something from that. I've been Brent from Production Expert, and I'll see you in the next one.